Hello, everyone.
It's the Tiff and Jack Show, a podcast devoted to helping you dump the overwhelm and live the happy. Today is episode 25, a day in the life of a psychic medium. Did you know that Tiff is a psychic medium? Well, you do now because she is. But before we get there, we're so glad to be back, by the way. We are recording this on a Wednesday. Typically, we record somewhere over the weekend. Mm-hmm. Our best goal is on a Friday, but a lot of life happens in our lives, like yours, I'm sure. And this weekend was a wild and crazy weekend. We threw a martini party. It was really quite fantastic. One of the best I think we've ever had.
Really? You thought so?
I loved it.
Did you?
Yeah, I paced myself the whole night.
Oh,
I was
whatever
riding the happy drunk. It was good.
Yeah,
it was just a really great party. I set an intention that I would feel connected and that everyone that was here would feel very supported and loved and accepted. And I think it was a success for me, at least.
Yes.
And I'm the only one that matters, I think. Right?
Okay.
I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but Tiff has a way of saying, if we get in a little bit of a Tiff argument, she's like, well, it's all about Jack.
Have we? What? I thought this was about being a psychic medium.
It is, but it's all about me. So I have to just start there.
I thought the martini party went well and the martinis were a success.
Oh, yeah. Talk about the martinis. Did you like the hibiscus rose?
Hated it.
Hated it. I thought it was delicious. Once you fixed it,
it was a hit at the party, which blew my mind.
The cocaine lady.
That was amazing.
So good. And then what was the other one? Oh, the Tiffany.
Yes.
How could I say what was the other one?
I don't know.
The Tiffany is your drink. It's your signature drink. What are you doing? Are you reading your phone?
Yes, I'm looking at the question that I just posed on Facebook. Let's see, how long ago? It was 40 minutes ago.
Look towards the microphone.
Okay, so the question that I asked on Facebook was, if you could ask a psychic medium anything, what would it be? So answers are still flooding in. I have to say that the men in here have got
assholes.
issues. Yeah. And the women are open and asking interesting questions. Yeah, but I don't know what it is with men and that kind of stuff.
I'll tell you what it is. It's ego. It is ego. It's having to look a certain way and make other people looking down on other people like they're stupid, because truly, if that person that's talking smack or like, this is a stupid question, why are you asking it? Get off the strand. Why are you there? If you have an issue with it, if you want to just hop on and try to make everyone else look like they're stupid because you have an issue, you're the one that looks stupid. So just shut up.
You're very protective of your wife. I do know that. Not all men are this, so I don't want to lump them into a category, but all the men on this strand so far have been quite derogatory. And it just makes it easy for me to block
especially if it's PMS week, but it isn't. So they probably haven't been blocked yet, maybe a couple. But there's some really good questions that Tiff is actually, you're going to talk to some of those questions, right?
Yeah,
answer some of them.
Totally.
So do some of her psychic magic work.
Yes, and what else did you want to share before we get started, like about our week?
It has been such a great week and busier than shit. Thinking back about the week, I'm not sure why it feels so busy other than our client load has been big the last few weeks.
Well, it's been big for months.
Yeah,
it's been big for a long time, but yeah, we have a lot going on. And when we throw parties, like we have a yearly martini party for the people in our life. It's kind of a gift that we give to our people, and we know a whole lot of people, so
let's talk
bigger
about
parties.
Let's talk about the week leading up to a martini parties, or a couple weeks. You usually shoot the invites out a couple or 2 or 3 weeks ahead.
Yep.
And there's quite an extensive list. And this year, Tiff commandeered my phone because her phone was probably busy being used for something. Oh, it was probably being used for music during our clearing part of our coaching that we do, during the meditation part of it. And so Tiff took my phone and she's inviting all these people on my phone. And then I get on my phone and there's like 30 different invites and I can't see any of my messages that I need to know. I have certain messages because I have a lot of answering back that I have to do with our clients and questions and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then if they aren't right in my line of sight, it's very easy for me to forget that that's there. And so it was a real struggle. But we worked through it. But we worked through it beautifully. It only took one fight. No, not. There really wasn't a fight over that, but we have had a couple little spats this week, but we worked right through those too. Nothing like a good hard spanking to make things go better.
Oh, okay.
Oh, this isn't that episode.
No,
this is
that. We're not talking about that. No. You're on one today.
I just have so much energy and I feel super awake. It is still really hot summertime, which isn't typically my best season. I like the cooler fall and spring and winter. So we get in the car today after session, 108 degrees on the thermometer. I don't think it was that outside, but it was pretty hot.
It was close to it. It's pretty hot. I enjoy the heat of the summer. I'm a fiery little
and all your flowers.
Creation.
I'm looking out at all of Tiff's flowers in her yard. It's just really pretty.
Okay. So today, I'm going to be talking about all things psychic medium, and I'll be talking about past lives and clearings and healings and exorcisms.
And what life is like in this world. This is just our day-to-day experience. It's a normal routine thing.
Yeah.
But for you, it may not be.
Well, we are life coaches, if you want to call us that. We do a lot of different things, but in our coaching, a lot of times I'm able to utilize my gifts to assist our clients. So I really have the perfect job for me. And on the side of coaching, I do quite a few house clearings, medium sessions, exorcisms.
Our standalone sessions.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And there's just a lot. I don't think we've talked a ton about it on our prior podcast.
A little bit here and there.
This one is dedicated to all things voodoo. Isn't that voodoo, what our woo-woo voodoo, whatever people call it? Yes.
Magical
Not
world.
really voodoo, but we have a few people that call me the voodoo magic girl. It's all I can say about these gifts is it's all about energy. This isn't some magical thing that, I just have these special powers. For whatever reason, my brain is able to opt into different frequencies and see and hear and experience different things than the typical person. I don't really talk about it all the time. I don't think I'm super freaking awesome.
I do.
Well, that's good. I mean, if you didn't, we might have a problem.
We would. That would be sad.
So today we're just going to talk about it. Jack's going to ask a bunch of questions. I have no idea what he's going to ask me.
Well, I just want to talk a little bit about when we first met, which was 10 years ago. And Tiff, when I met her, I knew immediately there was something very unique and special about this person. And we started a conversation that has not ever ended. It started 10 years ago, and we have just been talking and talking ever since. And I honestly, probably the first 6 months, I asked Tiff in-depth questions about her gifts and what she saw and how long she had them. And if she was seeing something, is she seeing in color? And if she's seeing a spirit or a deceased loved one that is deceased from this life experience, how do they look? And is she looking at them with her eyes? And how does she hear their voice? And is it in pictures? And those are some of the things that we want to talk about because I found it absolutely fascinating. And I know that whenever we're at a party, especially if it's a drinking party or something like that, Tiff usually has a circle of people around her and they're asking her question after question after question about this world of being a psychic medium. And most people have had someone that they love that's passed.
Oh, for sure.
And wonder if that person, we hear a lot of people coming in hoping that their deceased loved one is proud of them.
Or not disappointed.
Not disappointed in them. And we have some amazing things to share with you about that.
And I have to say, when you and I met and we were sitting on the couch in that house in Layton, Utah, and you started asking me detailed questions about how I experienced the unseen. That was like the best gift I was ever given, because no one up to that point, I think I was 36 years old, had ever asked me those kinds of questions. In fact, you are the first person, and I had never thought about that before.
Amazing.
Because I just had my experience, and honestly, I thought a lot of people probably experienced the same things, but I didn't talk about it because my big fear is that people would think I was a loon.
Isn't that interesting? And because of your upbringing and the culture and the religion that you were raised in, it was a bit of taboo to talk about gifts of these kinds of gifts of seeing. And when I remember, because I had such a deep fascination with near-death experiences, and I know that's because when my dad died when I was 11, I wanted to know where he was and what he was doing and if he was alive somewhere else and what was happening. So I have read extensively, I would say a very big majority of the mainstream near-death experience books.
Right.
And we are a member of the study for near-death. We go to those meetings. And Tiff, I would say that some of my favorite sessions that I sit in on and do notes for are the medium sessions. I love them.
I know you do.
I love them. I have always loved them. And early on, the dream that came through, I mean, right when we had met, within the first couple of months, first month, very soon.
Yeah.
Tiff had a dream that had my deceased father in it, but she didn't know my dad was dead. She just knew that I showed up in this dream and there was a man with me.
Yeah, I wondered. I figured it was him.
I figured you're talking like a farmer, which is something that happens, which is so funny. That's funny. Okay. That's so funny that just happened, because my life living with a psychic medium, someone that reads energy, will be walking along and she'll just break out into an accent or a song or say things in another language. And I just think, well, I guess she just got hit with a little bit of energy. We'll be fine. So she just did a little bit of farmer talk, just like my dad.
Is it?
Figured.
That is.
I figured it was.
Yeah, that
your
was
dad.
That was funny.
Yeah, I think we shared that dream in another podcast. It's one of the foundational pieces of our relationship,
right?
That explain who we are together. And I think we should do a quick little recap. It's a very fascinating dream, very, very important, and has everything to do with what we're talking about.
Okay. Go for it.
Okay. I do bullet points. So you go ahead and just embellish wherever you need to. Okay. So I had showed up Tiff had a dream, and I showed up to her house, and I had a gift for her. And the gift that I was carrying was a 6-foot porcelain iridescent snake.
Yep.
Now just think about that for a second.
And of course I open the door when you knock and I see the gift you're bringing me, and I'm like, what a bizarre gift. But I really appreciate it because I adored you in my dream. It was this familiar feeling that we had known each other forever. And I just thought I appreciated the gift because it was from you. So
she invited me in, and this is where this man, who now we know, already, is my dad. Spoiler alert. And so she invited us in. She could tell that I didn't know he was with me, but he stuck right by me, right behind my right shoulder. And Tiff had me put the snake up on the mantle of her fireplace. Happened to be Christmas time, Christmas lights, Christmas tree. We were standing over having a little conversation, and the snake was up on the mantle. And the next thing we know, something knocked it off and it shattered on the ground. And we both went over to it, just shocked. And Tiff felt really upset because this very strange gift had been broken. And we both leaned down to kind of start cleaning up the mess of the glass. And this is where you take over.
So the glass is all broken on the bottom or on the floor. And as we lean over and put our hands on there, I hear a voice very clearly say, "You can do anything if you do it together." And then the snake takes perfect form.
Again. So it was like it had never been broken.
Yes, and that was a surprise. And I woke up, and I thought, that is the weirdest dream ever. But I woke up with this remembrance or this feeling of how I felt about Jack many times before. And it was just kind of like I was having a memory or something. It was the weirdest thing. And then I got the strongest feeling that I had to call Jack and say, hey, I had a dream and I need to tell you about it. And I had never really had a conversation with Jack.
No, this was right at the beginning.
This is just when we met.
Yeah.
And I thought, there is no way in hell I'm calling him to tell him about this dream. There's no way. He'll think I'm nuts. And for the next 3 days, I just kept getting this gnawing, nagging thing. And this, I've had this voice talk to me my whole life. And this voice is like, you need to call Jack and tell him the dream. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I am not doing it.
You thought I'd think you were nuts, right?
I did.
Just completely
well,
nuts.
You know, I wasn't really open about my gifts with anyone.
No, you weren't at all. No.
So I just thought, why in the hell would I ever tell a stranger this? But it was such a powerful dream. I didn't really understand the depth of what it meant at the time, but I could feel the power of it. And that nagging voice was just like, Tiffany, call Jack and tell him the dream. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. After 3 days of being hounded by this person, this voice, and it's always a male voice, that speaks to me. And I was like, oh gosh. Finally, I got so sick of that terrible feeling of like, you have to call right now. I finally just called Jack and shared it with him, and you can take it from there.
So, and I was very, very open and ready because I had my own experience, my own very clear knowing that Tiff had something to tell me and I needed to listen to her. It was the clearest experience ever. And so when she called, I didn't feel alarmed or anything. I actually felt very curious and interested and excited to hear what she was going to say. And then she begins telling me the dream, and instantly I tell her, she said, how did what happened to the point where I said, who was with me?
Well, it was, his hair was so thick and dark.
Which is my dad's hair.
And he was wearing a sweater.
Oh, he had served a mission for his church in Sweden and had some sweaters knit for him while he was there.
So I described to you the sweater, and you had that sweater.
Yeah, I have that sweater. And she said I said, that's my dad. And he died when I was 11.
And him in the dream, it was very clear to me that Jack's dad was with him all the time, but Jack was not aware that he was there.
And let me tell you why I wasn't aware. Because right after my dad died, within just a couple of days, somebody a friend or a neighbor had come over to the house to wish their condolences. And the neighbor said, oh, he has a much more important work to do on the other side, which is right in line with the religion, with the LDS Mormon religion, that there's missionary work to do after you die. And so in my mind, I took that to mean that he wasn't around me and that he was busy doing something more important than me, more important than being my dad. So God had taken him away to go do missionary work because I didn't matter. That's an 11-year-old rationalizing death, a traumatic experience. And hence, this is a lot of the work that Tiff and I do, is clearing out these stories and beliefs that we've picked up as children, that our clients have picked up as children, that all of us have picked up as children, that limit our worldview and limit our possibility of creating more of what we want in our life.
Right.
Magnificent experience. And then thereafter, my dad was coming through left and right. At this point, my dad is so incredibly present in my life. He is very much alive in my experience.
Right.
And you gave that gift to me. And it's been one of the greatest gifts ever that you could have ever given me, which is giving my dad back. And that's what I see. That's why I love the medium sessions so much, because every single person has relief and they feel connected and supported again when they're done with session.
Right.
I love it so much.
So any other specific questions?
I think it would be a really important thing to share a little bit about being a gifted person, from how you manage all the energy that you're constantly dealing with when it comes to being a gifted person. What is your experience like? What is your daily management of energy like for you?
Well, I think because I've been doing this forever, like since I was born gifted. So it wasn't something I learned or went to a class and took classes or read books to learn how to bring my gifts out. When I was a little child, I was having some pretty wild experiences as a little person. So I would see a lot of really spiritual, loving experiences, and I would also see some very scary things. And even before I could talk, and one of the interesting things is that many people don't believe me. And at this point in life, whether people believe in psychic mediums or believe the things I say is really quite irrelevant. I had people are like, that's impossible when I say that I remember my when I was 1 and even 6 months old. I remember those times, and I had some pretty scary experiences with low vibrational entities, or what many people would call evil spirits or bad spirits. But I also had just as many, if not more, from beings of light. And I just had a lot of really amazing and scary experiences. So I learned from a very young age. I was crying a lot. I had a very hard time sleeping. A lot of things would happen at night. And I didn't know how to make sense of it. I always felt comforted and happy and calm when I was having the good experiences, but I would have lots of really terrible dreams, and I would see certain things that people don't usually see, with dark figures and ghosts and things like that as well. I also had a friend. Her name was Sarah, and she was another little girl that spent a lot of time with me.
She wasn't living.
No.
You always have to clarify when you live with a psychic medium. Are you talking about someone that's alive in this dimension, or
right,
a spirit?
Right.
Because, it could just be her little neighbor friend, Sarah, but Sarah didn't have a body.
Right. And so, I had that. I was crying a lot. I was very afraid most of the time. And my mom really didn't know what to do with me. I was quite a handful as a child. Very, very, I'm sure I was extremely difficult. And over the years, having the experiences, I didn't really talk about them just because, I shared some things with my mother, and she always believed what I said, but she just said, these are sacred experiences that you don't discuss with others. And the belief behind it was, if you discuss these things, you'll be vulnerable to Satan's power.
Oh, Lord.
So, of course, I was having very scary experiences with demonic presences and things like that. From a very young age, I had some very wild experiences and it scared me so bad. And I thought, if I don't think about it or speak of it, they'll stop. And what I have learned over the years is my fear of those experiences was energetic food for those lower vibrational entities to connect with. And so it kept bringing the problems in. And I've learned a lot over this last 40 years. And now I share with people these experiences. I also share my gifts and help them find answers. I connect people with their dead loved ones. I have the ability to assist in removing demonic energies that are stuck to people or inside of people. I do past life regressions and rewriting, and what else? Healing.
I think it would be yes. So yes, you do all of those things. And I think it would be very interesting for you to talk about sharing your experience with what it is like for you when, I need to get my words wrapped around this here. So you as a child, you had all those experiences growing up. So what would you say, how would you explain demonic energy or dark presences?
Well,
what is that, so people can understand?
When I was in religion, everything came from the devil and devil's angels. And I understand things differently now. I don't ascribe to any kind of religion. My personal belief at this point is religion, organized religion, is based in fear and rules. And if you don't behave or live a certain way, then there are consequences from God. And I have come to a very different place in life at this point with that. And so my story now has nothing to do with the devil and his angels. It has to do with low vibrational energy. So here's what I have come to understand, is that when people die, They leave behind all their discrepant thinking, thoughts, behaviors. It's all an energy imprint. So it's kind of like you put a glove on your hand and your spirit leaves, all your wisdom and knowledge and truth and goodness leaves and goes to another dimensional environment. And what's left behind is all the yucky stuff that we believed, all our fears, all those things. And that's just moving energy, and it's moving around. That energy, by the law of attraction, honestly, finds other conglomerations of energy, and they join together. And that's what creates demonic presences in the world. And you can call them beings, or you can just call it low vibrational energy. They have a mind of their own. They behave a certain way. And there's an energy allotment with every amount of energy that is left behind. So one of the things that I do is go into homes, either in person or remotely. And if they're having troubles with what people call ghosts, I escort that energy into a light doorway. And this is just making it pretty simple and basic for people to understand, so that that light or that energy can be transmuted into light. And that's what people would call stuck spirits or things like that. All of our junk is left behind after we die. So you could say that part of us is stuck here until it's transmuted into light energy that is a higher frequency and a higher vibration. And so did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. And certain energies stay attached to certain houses.
Yes.
And that's why older houses will have a lot of energy moving through it, and a lot of what we say stuck energy, but it's just vibrating at the same frequency or staying stuck to certain things.
And you'll find that really low vibrational entities, like think about Hitler, think about people have done some really evil behavioral things in this world, and them leaving behind all their yucky stuff. Those are conglomerations of energy that will join other conglomerations of yucky energy, and that creates thoughts and ideas in that vibration that can create behavior and things like that. So there's not a body there, but it is energy. And if you think about our spirits, what people call our spirits, that's light energy. That's just natural light energy that comes from source energy. So
it's our thoughts that create the discrepant energy.
Yes.
Because we're all perfectly created whole energy.
Right.
We're all God energy.
Right.
But then it's our thoughts start moving a frequency or vibration or energetic expression, a certain frequency radio channel, so to speak. And then a living person on this planet could have certain beliefs about the world or themselves, or hate or violence. And some of that discrepant energy, non-living energy, could connect to them.
Yes.
And make it bigger.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And make it worse and darker and louder and bigger.
Yes. So when it comes to, I'll share this. When I was 10 years old, I had a really interesting experience, and it changed my life significantly. And it really has a lot to do with who I am today and actually what I do for a living. And when I was 8 years old, I watched The Exorcist. And if anyone has seen it, it's a pretty freaky show. And if you're an 8-year-old child watching it, just imagine the fear that can come up. But I had a really interesting experience when I watched that show. I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, this is real. Like this can actually happen. And, I could not watch the show until about 3 years ago. I sat down and watched it again so I could see what my little girl brain was wrapping around at that time. And after I watched that show when I was 8 years old, I had such intense anxiety and fear that I could hardly function. And I'm not kidding, to the point where my mom took me to a religious leader and said, bless her, that this fear and these horrible anxieties and things will disappear. I had a really profound experience with this religious person, and I actually just found him the other day, and we're trying to connect so we can have a conversation so I can tell him what happened. But he gave me what we call a blessing, And in that blessing, it said that angels will be my constant companions and protectors, and some other things that I don't remember. But I remember just a feeling of peace coming over me during that time. And I remember going home that night and cleaning my room, and I just felt such a sense of peace. And I got my nice nightgown on and cleaned my room.
That's
and I
so
just felt,
cute.
I finally felt restful from the experience that I had had 2 years prior. And I had a very interesting experience that night where two beings of light came into my room and were standing over my bed and having a very long conversation with me. I still to this day do not remember that conversation, except one of the beings of light said to me at the end, "Do you love me?" And I said, "Yes." And it was such a familiar uh, uh, experience. Like I knew this person or this being, I knew them. And I woke up and I had some significant changes um, in my what I would call my thought process, that I no longer had fear moving around inside of me. And it appeared to be that I could see other people's thoughts and experiences, and all of the irrelevant things in life became meaningless to me, to the point where I did find myself in quite a bit of trouble because I was not following the rules that adults were giving me, because I could see it was completely irrelevant. And I challenged adults and I had no fear. So I began to have a large allotment of gifts from the age of 10 up. And through my life, I would say from 10 to my age now, 46, I have learned how to use my gifts to assist other people and to recognize things that are negative vibration and things that are true high vibration. And I have the ability to do things that are pretty uncanny. So in our practice, people come in for healings or all kinds of things. I have the ability to read the akashic record. What an akashic record is the energetic record of everything that has been or will be or is happening now. So if someone comes in with a certain type of question, oftentimes, unless it's important that I don't reveal the information, it will be blocked from me. But oftentimes, more time than not, I can access that record and answer people's questions.
Yeah, you're especially good at tapping into soul purpose, and people when they're really trying to understand what is my soul purpose and what do I want. And in our coaching and everything that we do, we're always asking people, what do you want? What do you want to create? Where are you going? What do you want to do with your life? What do you feel like you're here to bring to the world? And sometimes people feel very blocked and stuck. And I'm sure it's an Akashic record thing, right? Where they can come in and you have such a strong read on their energy of what taps in. You'll ask them certain questions and they share and you share. And it's an amazing thing to see the connections happening with the things that you're sharing, with it being part of something they've always had a feeling towards, but maybe didn't feel like it was something they could do or something they could make money doing. But and this is, it's interesting talking about all of Tiff's gifts, because her gifts are a vital part of our life coaching practice. There's no question. Outside of, when a person comes in to coach with us, it's a 4-month program. They're coaching every couple of weeks and coming in for a session. But the very first session is a healing, clearing, energy clearing session where Tiff uses her gifts and specifically does some energy clearing work to open up the energy so they're ready to go in and start opening into the unconscious programming of their brain and get out the blocks and limitations and stories and perceptions they've been carrying that's blocking them. So your gifts are a part. And then when we're coaching, you intuitively can read their energy so well, and you can see pictures and have experiences of them as a person and ask them direct questions about, tell me about when you were 16, right? Like the number 16 will really get popped into your mind. And you're like, tell me about the age of 16. And sometimes they're like, well, I don't remember anything. Oh, wait a minute. When I was 16, blah, 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 blah.
Right. And it's linked right into what it is that they're trying to clear. Oftentimes I just see pictures kind of like film strips. And I think I explained this to you, babe, when we first met. You're like, how do you see and hear? And the only way I've been able to really describe it is I feel like I have a set of eyes behind my physical eyes. I have a set of ears behind my physical ears, and that's where I see and hear things. And on occasion, I will literally see something with my physical eyes or hear things with my physical ears. Not on occasion, that happens often, but more times than not, I hear it with these, and I guess I would just call them spiritual eyes or spiritual ears. And so when people come in, I'm linked right into their energy and have the ability to really assist them if they're willing to receive the assistance. Now, there are some people that are extremely resistant and don't believe in this. And I feel very, very blocked with those types of people. I can see certain things, but it doesn't feel safe to me to share things with people that are think it's funny or stupid or they don't believe it. That's just, I opt out of experiences. We had one experience with a guy that came in that wanted to talk to his dead son that didn't believe in this kind of stuff at all and came in to waste my time. And I actually told him he needed to leave because the things that I was telling him, I was feeling such discomfort because it's kind of like sharing part of who you are with someone that is mocking or scornful of what that is. It feels like you're in a vulnerable place and you're not being appreciated for, you know, who you actually are. So I'm not interested in that. I don't have anything to prove to anyone, but I do know we don't sit there and market my psychic medium gifts. We just know that people will find their way in to see me if it is resonant with their energy and if they're wanting answers and they're open.
And talking about people being closed versus open and the energy that it requires of Tiff to get into someone's energy that's blocked and really trying to prove her wrong. It's not worth her time at all.
No,
it requires so much of you to put your energy into it just to getting through the blocks. And the opposite of that is true to the opposite end of the spectrum, where someone comes in very willing and open. It is an amazing experience. It flows, it moves very easily and quickly. And there are a lot of answers that are coming up and messages that are being shared. And the more open a person is, the more deep the message typically is.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people struggle with things that they cannot see.
Yeah.
So they're just more comfortable with seeing this, what they can see and making sense of that. And then they release the other, and that's fine too. There are people that have experiences where they have dreams or they see a dead loved one standing in their room and they want to know more. And those today, I got a message from a woman that has a child that she said, here's a video. There are orbs and flying lights through the room that we caught on her monitor. She's a 3-year-old child. And so I'm watching these orbs and these light strands flying over the bed of the child. And the mom wants more information. The child doesn't sleep very well at night. The child had shared some scary experiences that she had, and she's sharing those things with me. And I'm able to teach her what things mean. And then I'm also able to go in and do a clearing in the home so I can clear out the low vibrational energy and assist the child to have a more restful sleep and to not feel the fear. And it gives the mom and dad, of course, some feelings that she's protected and things like that. So, people contact me from all over the planet to get information, and I'm super happy to assist people. The strand that I had just put on Facebook.
Yeah, this is interesting.
It's pretty interesting.
Because she had asked the question, if you could ask a psychic medium anything, what would it be? And here are some of the questions people are asking.
So my friend Tina, she said, where the fuck is my passport? Which I thought was I thought that was funny. She's a funny woman. Many people said past lives. I'd like to know more about past lives. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Someone said, tell my mom I love her. I can promise you that your family member is always connected to you and knows how you feel about them. And also another thing I can promise you, I've never run across it in a medium session where a family member or someone that you love that is deceased ever feels disappointed, because once they die and that true pure part of themselves is released from this experience, they see things very clearly. So they have a deeper understanding, and you as the human being living in this dimension, you're associating them as who they were when they were alive. And that is not the truth of their energy. Is pure and knows all things and is a very peaceful, joyful person. And it's very definitely their personality is the same, but they have clear vision of what's going on. So no one's disappointed with you.
No.
And, one thing that I can tell you is when a medium session comes in and I'm working with someone, the family member that is deceased or the loved one that is deceased always shares something that only the person listening understands. So I actually had 2 medium sessions yesterday in between coaching clients. And one of the husbands yesterday had died of lung cancer. And the second he actually came into the car because I really center myself on the way over to session. And not only that, gosh, there's just so much to share.
I know.
Not only that, before the person contacts me for a medium session, that deceased loved one that they want to talk to usually contacts us in our home by doing some freaky shit in our house before their person actually calls. So I always know when someone's getting ready to call because we have a lot of spiritual activity going on in our house. Like
we had my running shoes thrown out of the dryer. We have front loaders. The doors are really hard to open. I had washed my running shoes. They were in a load of laundry and the door was open and my shoes and clothes were all over the floor. And nobody was here but Tiff and I. I mean, nobody had been downstairs. And then another thing with that same medium session, there was a picture. Tiff has a hand-drawn picture of Jesus that her aunt drew on our wall. And it was face down on the floor and the glass wasn't broken. And then Tiff learned later about this person. He was an atheist and he was a runner. So they bring messages through so Tiff can make connectors. And he
also turned on our hose.
On Christmas time.
On Christmas Day, full blast out in our backyard that's gated off so no one could get in there and no one could get past the snow. So, I was like, okay, someone's obviously getting ready to come in. Yeah. And that was probably my hardest medium session because he was murdered and I had to tell the family how that all happened. And after that, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too much. But it all turned out well and the message came through well. So we do have a lot of activity going on in our house. Our
TV's always being turned on.
Our lights are
always doing their thing.
Doors, all kinds of
music, stuff, phones.
Yeah.
It's just normal. It's just the day in the life of.
Yeah. And in my first marriage, I would have a lot of experience. I tried to talk to my husband then at the time about it. And it was just so overwhelming to him that he's just like, I really can't discuss this, so I don't want to talk about it anymore. So I just got even more quiet than I already was. And then when I met Jack and he's like, I love this stuff. Tell me everything you know. I spent a very long time telling him everything I had experienced. And then when we lived together, he began to experience the things with me because we sleep in the same bed and we live in the same house. So there's a lot of activity that Jack has experienced.
Covers being thrown around.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Tiff getting jumped.
Yeah, I yesterday we had a medium session and the husband had died of lung cancer, and the second that he actually came through me in the car before we got there. And so I was a sobbing mess before I got to the session.
Which Tiff doesn't cry.
I just don't like
she typically does not do that. I look over and she's crying. I said, okay, what's going on? And she goes, he just is I can just feel how happy he is to have this opportunity to speak to his loved one.
To his wife, yes. Yeah. And I just get so overwhelmed with their emotion and their love and their feelings that I cannot help but weep about it. It makes me feel a little embarrassed and uncomfortable because I'm a very strong woman. So crying is a little more difficult for me to do with people that I don't know, but I just allow it to move through me. And by the time she got to the office, she had been sobbing. She said, I just have this feeling. And I said, me too. And the session went very well. And he kept bringing up a watch. He just kept bringing it up, but he was saying so many other things that I was sharing with his wife, the things that he was sharing with me. So it took me a little while to get to the watch, but I said, he keeps bringing up a watch. And she just smiled at me and got very quiet and pulled the watch out of her pocket and said, yes, this is the watch he's talking about. And he had shared something about the watch. And also something that I do pick up on occasion, not every time. I try to be good about not taking on energy, but with his lung cancer, the second we got into the office, my lungs started to act up and I was coughing a lot. And I'm still battling that actually today. I'm not coughing, but I'm losing my voice. So that's why my voice sounds a little strange as we're doing this podcast today. So sometimes I pick up stuff like that. And that's not my favorite thing. It does take a lot of my energy. I have to tune into frequencies that are not in this dimensional experience where I'm living. So I can feel very tired. I've gotten really good at not feeling so tired when I do this kind of work. Yeah. Like a lot of times I feel invigorated and excited, but I have a level of peace in my life that comes through that is this really spiritual, peaceful experience. As I do healings, I can feel energy moving through me that does not come from me, that it just comes through me, kind of like I'm the conduit for that. When people come in for healings, I feel a strength enter in me when I'm doing clearings in houses or dealing with low vibrational entities or demonic presences in people. I just feel like I am a conduit for beings of light to assist humans that are struggling in this life. And I'm open to do that. And it brings a lot of peace and joy into my life. And it's pretty fascinating when I share with people things, they just think it's so awesome and cool. I wouldn't suggest this type of life for most people simply because there's a lot of things you have to learn how to manage, and dealing with the unseen that is low vibration can be very, very scary until you're well seasoned at what you do.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to share something about you when you're doing a house clearing. And this is where I'm the witness. I've been with Tiff for 10 years and I've seen it all. I've been there step for step, experiencing it all, taking notes on most of it, whether it's a medium session, of course, in all of our coaching sessions, but we're just talking about mediums and psychic sessions and house clearings. Well, Tiff was clearing a house. And she was explaining to me what she was seeing. And she actually had another clearer from another part of the country working with her on this particular house because it was a very big job. Uh-huh. And Tiff was explaining to me what she was seeing in the hallways here and the doors here. And I can see this. And the other person from across the world was sharing on her notes, this is what I'm seeing. Everything Tiff was telling me she was seeing, she hadn't typed it to the person that she was talking to on Messenger, but the other person was seeing everything Tiff was seeing. So their energy had traveled together to a place, a location in the world. They're both in two separate parts, meeting together in this space, a very, very, very old building that needed to be cleared. And they were saying exactly the same things. And that is when I'm just sitting there, this shit is real. Like it is getting real right now. Right. There is no doubt in my mind, because I have seen all the links hooking it together, giving proof and evidence over time. One thing I would like to share really quick is and I know you've talked a little bit about medium sessions, but the joy of a medium session, one of the biggest messages I have heard over and over and over, and I have it in all of the notes I've written when I'm taking notes on the session, is that don't take life so serious. Over and over and over. Have joy. Drink a beer. Go have fun. Nothing is as serious as it looks. You're here to have joy. Live, lighten up. Don't take everything so hard. It's okay. It's not as bad as it looks. And isn't that just phenomenal to know that that's what's coming through from people that have passed, and they're now seeing a much bigger picture of what's really going on. And we're here and we're like, oh my God, life is so serious. And this is such a problem. And everything's falling apart. They're like, lighten up. It's okay.
True. Yeah.
Everything's okay.
And another message that comes through is there are no accidents. Even with the worst things that you can experience in life, they're always playing a part in getting you to where it is that you want to be in life. And life, from what I have come to understand over these many years of having very vast experiences with the unseen, is that life is meant to be a joyful experience, and nothing is as serious as we think it is.
Great news.
And I have a lot of gratitude for my gifts. There have been many times where I have been deeply afraid because I'm witnessing or experiencing things, which I think we'll share some stories that I think we should find pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to the stories in a sec. I have another question that I want you to answer.
Okay.
If people come to you for a psychic reading and they want you to tell their future.
Yeah.
Let's talk about fortune telling.
Okay.
Tiff is not a fortune teller. And explain the differences and why you do it the way you do.
Okay. I have some serious pet peeves with people that say that they're psychics or mediums or whatever. Some of them are real and some of them are full of shit, just like every other career path. Okay. I do not believe in ever walking up to someone and say, I have a message for you. If you are a medium that does that, knock it off, because it's extremely invasive, makes people feel unsafe and uncomfortable. And most of the time when you're doing that, it is because you want to be recognized for your gifts. I have no interest in being recognized for my gifts. I am a person that just takes a lot of joy in the simple things of life and just creating a life experience that I want. And a lot of times this kind of work is very, what is it called? It's made
sensationalized.
Yeah, it's sensationalized, and whatever. People can come up and say, "Oh, this is so amazing what you can do." I don't feel the amazingness of it, other than I feel a lot of gratitude that I'm able to assist people. But if you ever get to know me, I don't sit and just bring up, okay, let me tell you how cool I am today. So that's one thing that really bothers me. And the other thing is, when you are a person that is here to assist someone else, telling them their future can be extremely damaging, because their thought process can change any outcome. There is no set outcome. The outcomes change a million times in one experience. Someone could walk into my office and I could see them get in a car wreck and be dead tomorrow. If I were to tell them that, it will be in their mind. And because the law of attraction creates the things that we think about, they could project that and keep that coming forward, or they could change their mind and it would change the outcome. So you changing your mind literally changes your life. Now, some people I can share, if you stay in this type of relationship or this type of behavior, your trajectory looks like this, but you can change that by making different decisions. I don't tell people, oh, you'll get married at this time. And I don't give people timelines. I'm not super great with timelines. I can see certain things, and things happen much faster than what it feels like they'll happen to me. So I don't ever do timelines. And I don't tell people, oh, this is your future, this is what's happening. Because if that person believes you, they will actually create it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted you to speak to.
I just really have issues with it. So people are like, what are the lottery numbers? I could give you a set of lottery numbers and it could change in one instance because someone else makes a different decision somewhere. And it's funny because a lot of the men on this strand are like, psychic mediums are a fraud, or what are the lottery numbers? And it's just such shallow stuff. If I went in to take a look at lottery numbers, I've never even done that. Like, that's not even something people pay me well, and they don't come in and want to find out lottery numbers. Mm-hmm. So, as I read that, I just am like, oh, brother, give me a break. Let's talk about something with depth. People want to know what their family members are thinking about them, or if they're at peace. They are at peace. There's no question about it. But part of them is left behind here that may not be so peaceful. And if that happens and they feel like, oh, their house is being haunted by a child that killed themselves, that energy is still there. And I more than one time have gone in and cleared out energy from suicide and things like that. And it just brings the vibration higher back up into the building, because the sorrow and grief and sadness and angst of someone that commits suicide, that energy is released from the building and transmuted to light. And that's all it is. Energy exists from everything, but it can be transmuted to a higher frequency or a higher vibration or light, but it will never go away. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you need a little sip of water with your little dry throat?
Probably so.
So I think a fascinating part of you being a psychic medium, you've learned that you have to be a little cautious or aware of what you're ingesting. So we had a little experience, and I think it would be a great experience to share just as an entertaining point of reference.
Mm-hmm. Well, my brain is extremely sensitive to things that I put in my body.
Like coffee.
Yeah, I cannot drink coffee.
No.
And I love coffee.
Yes.
But I cannot drink it because the effects of the caffeine wearing off in my brain chemistry,
it's very serious.
It causes rage and uncontrollable crying.
It's very bad.
Yeah. And anything that is an excitotoxin.
Yeah. Oh, like the superfoods.
Yeah.
Like cacao.
Yeah.
The nutritional yeast.
Mm-hmm.
What else have you done? Oh, the matcha.
Yeah.
That tea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Vodka.
Yeah, vodka is an interesting thing. If I do straight shots of vodka, I will channel. I will channel dead people.
Yeah, she's done this more than once. So here's a little experience. We had gone to dinner with some friends who had just gone to New Orleans, and they were back. And
for Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras. Yeah. And so they were sharing their experiences. It was great. And then the next night we were having a party at our house. And somebody had brought Crystal Skull vodka, really nice vodka.
Mm-hmm.
And Tiff was shooting some vodka, which you don't normally do.
No.
And
I probably had 3 shots.
Yeah. And she was sitting there in the chair. And the next thing I know, I'm watching her and her head kind of flies back, very out of the ordinary. Okay. I was really wondering what was happening. Her head flies back. She says, no, no, no. And then she sits up and starts speaking in an entirely different tone of voice, different mannerisms. Everything about her was not the way she normally is. And she started channeling. And this happened for like the next probably 2 hours, at least an hour.
Yeah.
And she was in and out. And she'd come back in to where she was in her body and very conscious. And then another energy would go in and channel through her and start speaking. One was like a spiritualist woman that sounded like she was whispering through her hands and speaking. And Tiff was like whispering, speaking. One was a chef, one was a plantation owner, and one was one Tyrone. One was just a man that was very much wanting to be very, very sexual. It was crazy.
So can I just say this? Having Tyrone moving through my body, I got to experience what it feels like to be a man in a sexual way, and it's different. All I can say is, whoa. Like I had feelings and ways of feeling like that I don't ever feel as a woman. So I had that experience. It took me about 5 hours to get Tyrone completely out.
Yeah.
I had to sober up completely and push him out of there. But the others, there were 4 of them, I believe, and they just kept taking turns. And
you could always tell exactly
it was quite a martini party for our friends.
That was the party
right?
show.
They got to experience.
It was crazy. It was crazy. So you've learned that you have to be very aware of what you're doing, what you're ingesting, where you go, the places that you visit, and everything. It's like everything just affects you. You're more sensitive to everything.
Mm-hmm. And I really love to engage with people and go to parties. But there's a lot of energy in those parties. And because I read energy and I feel energy, I'm an empath as well. I have to be watchful. A lot of times I really drink and get quite drunk at parties. It makes it easier for me to manage the energy. However, I always end up in a room full of people doing healing work or talking about psychic things with them.
You always do. And we try really hard to make sure Tiff she doesn't have to work when we're not working, because this is her work, but it feels very entertaining to people, and they want to know, they want to understand. So a lot of times people will be approaching her and asking her questions, and I kind of run guard to try to give her a little bit of space and room so that she's not having to work when she's not working. This is her
because
job.
People definitely come up and they're like, could you tell me la la la, and it's really easy for me to access the information and to share it with them, and it makes them feel so to me.
I know, usually,
but then I get really tired, and sometimes I just like to go to a party and just enjoy myself.
For sure.
So there are some drawbacks with the gifts that I have, and the more that people know about it, the more fascinated they are. And one thing I want to say about past lives really quickly, because so many people have questions about past lives. Past lives, you have your past lives, your future lives, and your life you're living right now. And on top of that, you have alternate realities in all of those lives.
This was just the question I was going to ask you to answer.
Well,
good job.
You didn't need to ask me, did you?
I know, you must be psychic.
So as you know that, then you also need to know that the only place that there is time is here in this mortal human experience, because time helps us make sense of things here. But in reality, there is no time. So where you were 500 years ago and where you are 500 years from now and where you are at this moment are all happening at the same time. So when that happens, if someone has a struggle they're having, they can come in, and because I can access the akashic record, I can see what lifetime is linked to that. I go into detail and describe it to them. Most people, I'd say 99%, have an emotional response to what I start telling them. And I always tell them, if you feel that emotion or you start to cry, you're having a physical body memory, a cell memory from that experience, and that tells you it's accurate for you. So we go in, and because I have the ability to do what we call as astral travel, and a lot of healers do this, they have an astral body or part of their energy body that can leave their physical body and go to different space and time and assist. And that's where I go in and discuss with the client at the time how they would like to rewrite what they're experiencing in that life, and it drastically changes their experience here.
I think it is so awesome how you go in as an astral traveler. And you're connecting with that past life of that person that you're working with.
Mm-hmm.
And that person there is having a choice. They're making a choice in another dimension for themselves. So it's not like you're just rewriting. They're making their own choice.
Right.
And then the story just goes. Like it just goes, takes off.
It does. And I mean, I could talk about this for hours.
I know.
So I'm just giving you some quick bullet points to really just start thinking about. I suggest that you read past lives books and medium books.
Many Lives, Many Masters.
Yeah.
It's a great book.
Look into those things because they will enliven your life. There is so much more going on than what you can see with your eyeballs. We are having such an amazing life experience. And so many of us are so skeptical that we won't allow in the magical part of our life experience, which can transform your life in such a huge way. It's amazing. And I know you've had your own transformation living with a person that has all this kind of stuff happening.
Yeah, I have an interesting life with Tiff because she can read energy better than I can read my phone. She has her finger on the pulse of energy all the time. So I always say that it's like I'm living in a glass house. And I have to be incredibly willing to see my own discrepant energy and try to get to the bottom of it quickly, because she's reading it. She can see it before I can even feel it. And then once I look and go, oh, actually, yes, that is, I do have this feeling, or I am feeling overloaded about this or that or whatever. I've become very comfortable with being seen. Mm-hmm. And that's just one other thing. That's one other thing. People get very afraid that a psychic is always seeing everything about them or reading everything about them. Just stop worrying about it, because if Tiff wanted to spend all of her time doing that, she'd never have a life. The last thing, and she doesn't go in just to read energy unless she's invited or someone is actually
I am not an
her.
invasive
No.
Psychic medium. I do see a lot of things about people, but I really don't have much judgment on things, just simply because seeing all the things that I've seen, and especially in our practice and understanding people's stories and why they do what they do. Like I've just had so many years of experiencing people and understanding human behavior that if I see someone doing something against the law, or, feeling hateful about this person, it doesn't mean much to me. And I don't really spend my time taking a look too deeply, simply because if I'm going out to dinner, I'm going out to dinner to enjoy my time with myself and whoever I'm with. I don't really plan to spend my time looking at everyone's deep secrets, because I don't really care to do that. And I have enough energy reading that's happening all the time.
Right.
It's just too exhausting to be able to see everyone's stuff. So when someone comes in and makes an appointment, and they sit on the red couch, they have my 100% attention.
Right on.
And I'm able to assist them in that way. And when I'm done, I'm done. In fact, we just had a being walk down the stairs and is standing right over
right
there.
now. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Come on over.
He's very, very
light.
Not too dark.
Okay. That's exciting. So
yeah,
I think we should share in closing, probably need to wrap it up. The great story. Another medium session that Tiff just did. You've had a ton lately.
Yeah.
And this woman actually just sent me an email, and I had sent her the notes from the session, and she sent me an email, and she goes, I am more than happy for you to share this story if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think it'll be a great one. But before we wrap up with that story, a couple of things. One, if you to spend 5 minutes doing, figure out how to leave us a review on iTunes. We would love your reviews. And once you do that, that helps us get a little more traction so that we can spread the word further.
Awesome.
So, and I don't know about the other podcast host sites that we're on, how you do reviews there, but I do know on iTunes. And if you would take a minute and do that for us, oh my God, that would be super fantastic. And the other thing, if you're interested in doing any sessions or any work with Tiff, just send me an email or us an email at info@tiffandjack.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can jump over to our website and check out, or do leave a little message there. Again, it's tiffandjack.com. And so, yeah, is that everything that I wanted to share? Oh, did you talk about the gift of the beautiful box of tomatoes?
No.
Oh, Lord. I was just thinking about that because that was on the list, and that's like just something that's so small but means so much, and it goes right in line with all the medium sessions, and they're always coming through and saying, do have joy, enjoy your life. And Tiff's face when she saw this box of tomatoes that one of our clients brought to her today, that is the stuff we're talking about. Like, I remember one medium session, they were saying, go out and eat oranges.
Yeah, totally.
And she loved oranges. Eat oranges, and that's how, like, connecting with the little things make the biggest difference in your life.
Yeah, and I would say that with my gifts, the majority of what I experience at this point is positive. It was not always this way. I had to learn a lot through the land of hard knocks, with what attracted low vibrational entities into my experience, and how to keep that out. I will share. You can share the story with one of our medium sessions, but I will share something that you may find quite fascinating. And this was a huge learning thing for me. When I get calls from all over the planet to go in and clear out homes. I have an office upstairs where I can sit in there and do healing work on people or homes remotely, because it's all energy. I know how to do that. And I was working in a home in another state. And when I got the call to do that, I think it was a Saturday morning, I woke up and Jack was not home. And I started feeling very strange in my bed. very dizzy, and my body, the inside of my body started feeling like it was vibrating, and I could feel an energy coming toward me that was very bad, that was trying to get into my body. And because I was sleepy and very tired, it makes me a little bit more vulnerable on occasion. So if I don't keep my thought process in alignment when I go to bed, usually I'll have some sort of experience with a low vibrational entity. This was not a low vibrational entity. This was a demonic presence. And it was actually the presence that was in the home that I cleared later that day, that knew very well that I was trying to get that energy out of that home. And this is what has happened. And I have now learned to take precautions, certain types of precautions to prevent this from happening further. But I didn't know something at that time. So this is what happened.
Which that's kind of a common thing in the way of people that are very gifted. The entities and energies is like bees to honey.
Yes, I have a frequency and a light that the dead or ghosts or whatever recognize, and so they see me, and oftentimes I see them as well. But what happened is my body started to feel extremely weak, and I got that paralysis that many of you listeners I know have experienced. And I could feel the energy coming toward me, and my eyes were open, but I did not have any strength to prevent it. I felt what appeared to be hands moving and going into my back. And the feeling, all I can say is when those types of things happen, there is a chill in the room and an intense fear that you don't experience any other way but having a demonic presence trying to inhabit your body. I can't describe it. It's a horrific feeling. And because I was paralyzed and felt very weak and confused in my thought process, even though my eyes were open, I was screaming in my head, no, no, no. And it just kept moving further and further into my body. And finally, I just called on angelic assistance and I said, I need help right now. And I screamed no in my head, and it slipped back out. And I was extremely drained. And in 20 minutes, I was supposed to go in and remove that very demonic presence from that home. And its intention was to drain me so much that I couldn't do that. I went in, did all of the stuff that I do to get ready to go in and do those types of things. And I just asked for assistance to have the strength to go in. And that demonic presence was extremely angry about me trying to get it in through another doorway so that it could be transmuted by who knows who. And I was able to do that. It was very, very taxing. The whole process took me about 4 hours to deal with. And once I got that taken care of, I felt fantastic. But let me tell you, that was an experience that I had to learn very clearly that there are very strict precautions that I have to take to protect myself when I sign up to go in and do those types of clearings. So that's just one of the many, many experiences that I've experienced. And I can honestly say that I don't know how most people would handle that type of experience and continue to do their job. The reason I can do that is because I've had decades of experiences similar to that. So my fear response is much less than what it would be as if it happened to someone for the first time. So being a well-seasoned medium pays, but getting there is quite the journey that I wouldn't really wish that on anyone. I really wouldn't. But I feel grateful that I can do these things at this point, and I have a lot of assistance from the unseen world to help me assist other people. So it's awesome.
All right, shall we end on a really light note?
Sure.
Okay, so this story is adorable. I love it so much. I was very, very appreciative that she said that we could share it. She had come in for a medium session. It was the second one she had had since her love of her life had passed. And the first medium session was a little tricky. It was a lot of raw feelings. This one was a lot lighter and freer and empowered, and she's really doing great in her life and really feeling the presence of her lover that had passed. And she shared, she just adorable. She said, does he see me watering when I'm out watering the garden? She planted a garden in his name.
Yes.
For him. It's something that he loved, but never really had the time to do while he was here on the earth. And she said, so I go out.
Wait, don't say this.
I'm not, yet. I know, I'm not. So she goes out and she's watering the garden. And she said, I always feel him watching me while
she's
I'm
a medium herself.
Yeah, she's very gifted too. Mm-hmm. And am I missing? I don't want to do too bulleted.
I'll just say it. I'll just tell it.
Okay.
So she's watering and she says, is there anything he wants to tell me? Now, there are some things in medium sessions that come through that I feel a little uncomfortable sharing because I'm not sure how the person will respond until maybe later in the session. I kind of have to get a feel for things because I have to do a lot of translating because I see a lot of pictures and I hear what they're saying through energy. So I have to translate what they're trying to say in the best verbiage that I can. And so one of the things that I could see is that he watches her and there's quite a bit of sexual energy from him moving toward her. But I didn't really want to say that because I thought, well, that might freak her out. And she did say to me, she asked the question, she goes, does he have anything he wants to share with me? And I just said, he's there. He's definitely watching you. And I also see him standing by this. And I described it to her. And she goes, yes, that's in my yard. And she goes, well, and I said, okay, just to be totally frank, he does have quite a bit of sexual energy pushing toward you when he's watching you water. And she laughed. And she said, that's because I water my lawn and garden in my bra and panties.
I love it.
And I was so glad that I shared that with her and didn't hold that back because she said, I was wondering. And she had said something about he didn't like her underwear when he was alive. So he's like, you got to do something different. So she's been watering,
in her sexies.
And he likes that. So
I love it.
And so she said, oh, that's good to know. That's so great to know. So I said, yes, I'm so glad I decided to share.
And that, our friends, is a day in the life of a psychic medium. We're so glad that you could be here and hope that you were enlightened and entertained and that you laughed and hopefully you didn't cry. And if you did, that's okay too. We're so glad you're here. And thank you for being here. We love that you listen and we're going to just always be back. And remember,
eat dessert first
because life is meant to be devoured.
We are Tiff and Jack and we will be back.
Absolutely.